Hey, welcome back to Living in Minnesota. It's time for your real estate market update for May 2022. We've got a lot to talk about this month, so we're going to talk about different changes I'm seeing in the market. We're going to talk about interest rates, which have been bonkers lately. We're going to be talking about average price points, who's buying, who's selling, who's getting their offers accepted, and how things are changing in the next couple of months. So if that's what you're looking for, you came to the right place, and I hope you'll stick around. All right, let's jump right into it. We're going to start you off with some quick stats from a local company, Home Free TC, that I love. You guys know me talking about them. Let's see what they're looking at this week. So with all of their offers accepted, currently this was really interesting. So they're seeing 27% fewer offers that they're writing with only 2% getting accepted. So what that means is buyers are still getting their offers accepted. They're just not having to make nearly as many offers before they're getting them accepted. So that's actually super encouraging. Buyers that have been out there, if you're feeling discouraged, hang on. You're gonna see a theme that I'm talking about today, but we're seeing some shifts. This is a really good indication that buyers aren't having to compete in as many multiples, and they're getting those offers accepted a little more easily. So that's super cool. Another stat that I think I actually reported wrong for you, I may have to backtrack a little bit. They're seeing buyers' offers accepted with this contingent upon the sale of their current home. These would be for like a move up or a move down buyer. 15% of all offers accepted have those. And I had been reporting that as historically low. So this is one that's very, very interesting. I'm keeping my eye on it because personally I've seen very, very few offers being able to get accepted contingent upon the sale of your current property. However, they're saying it's at a 15%, which is their historic high from when they've been tracking. So very, very interesting. I suspect it's in part because we're seeing fewer first-time buyers and we're seeing more move up, move down buyers, second home type of buyers. So I suspect that's why if you factor off a bunch of first-time buyers that wouldn't have a house to sell, I think that might skew our numbers a little bit, but it's going up, so that's good. Fewer appraisal gap clauses. So if you've heard, if you home's listed at this price, you get your offer accepted here, and then it appraises in between, who's going to be coming up with that gap? Buyers are agreeing to pay money towards that gap less often. So that's actually super cool. Only on 30% of their offers accepted, are they seeing that. So that's a really encouraging number in a way. Again, I think we might be seeing some cracks in our crazy sellers market that might suggest we're going to start shifting to being more of a balanced market. So that's very cool. Offer acceptance rate, this one's also looking really high. 61% is great. Inspections waived is also down. They're still at 46% of offers accepted that buyers don't have an inspection on. So just something to be aware of. All the other stats are looking pretty consistent. We are seeing this one coming down a little bit, meaning that the average offer accepted is about 4% above the list price. I get that question a lot lately. All right, if the home's listed at $400,000, how much do I have to offer? The data says statistically about 3 to 4% above, and that's coming down a little bit. So that's really cool. Last one that I'll hit you with here, seller contributions. So this one's at 10%. I did not actually look up, I don't think, what that was the previous weeks. That's definitely going up. I want to say it was around 6 or 8%. It's still not common that we're seeing sellers having to pay towards buyers' closing costs. I suspect what this means is, especially with inspections going up just slightly, I think we're seeing there being more negotiating power from the side of the buyers. Maybe they're still given a really good high sale price offer, but that's coming with getting a little bit of help. Or if they're getting those inspections and they're seeing issues, buyers are actually able to be compensated a little bit more often. Sellers aren't quite as confident that they can dictate all of the right terms as strong. So it's only a slight bit, but seeing that number, again, for a first-time buyer, I'm not thinking you're gonna plan on getting all your closing costs paid by the sellers, but that is a little bit encouraging that we're seeing those. So otherwise, some really, really cool numbers. Now, before we move on, I'm gonna hit you with a new one this month. I'm really excited to show you this. So what you're looking at here, this is the number of showings we're seeing in a given week, okay? And this is a national number. What I want you to look at, it might be a little overwhelming. So first of all, you're looking at, if we start off, let me get my little pencil out here. This is January 1st, okay? So we're using January 1st as the 0% marker. And then are we going up or down throughout the year starting January 1? Now, this only goes back 2 years. Unfortunately, Showing Time just started this with the pandemic. I've filtered off 2020 for you. But this has been really, really fascinating. So first of all, you can see, generally speaking, our market's going to peak right after Easter. So here's what you're looking at here. When these dip a little bit right in here, that's Easter. Okay. This right here would be Mother's Day. Here would be Memorial Day. Oops. Sorry, let me clean that up for you a little bit. Mother's Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July weekend, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Okay. Now, it's not really any surprise that you would see, a dip in showings over those given holidays, right? That's pretty obvious. However, what I do think a lot of sellers are going to be aware of is we peak generally right around Easter as far as the number of showings on a property. Now, this is a normal cyclical thing for every year, right? However, when we're also expecting the market to start shifting, we're seeing those interest rates going up, we're seeing some macro level shifts in the market. When we're seeing that happening at the same time we're seeing normal seasonality happening, that does kind of set us up to have a double whammy of a shift in our market. Not something to be overly concerned with, but it is something that I'm having conversations with a lot of sellers to set your expectations that you may not have 5 gazillion showings and a whole stack of offers by the end of the first weekend, right? They're hearing of those stories from their neighbor who sold their house last summer or a few months ago, and that's just not the market that you're going to be in if you're listing your home right now. So still a very, very good market, don't get me wrong. We're going to show you the data on specifically seller's market, buyer's market, and that. But as you can see here, we're going to start trending downwards for the rest of the year, just like we always do. And our number of showings overall are just lower this year than they have been previously. Okay, so we're trending less than we were last year. And so I hate that salesy, like, now's the greatest time to sell your house ever. We were saying that, and the data shows that that was correct, and that has since passed. We're past kind of that peak prime of selling. A little bit of a bummer for sellers that maybe held off. However, that's also really, really encouraging news for our buyers who are trying to hopefully have a fighting chance here with everything else that is going on in the market. All right, now let me switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk to you about what interest rates are doing. Now, this has obviously been a huge hot topic because, even if you're not buying, sellers are dramatically affected by interest rates, and we're seeing some pretty big changes with that as well. So let me show you. I'm going to switch right into Freddie Mac's website. So this is Freddie Mac, and we're looking at 30-year loans right here. So this has actually been really encouraging the past couple of weeks. Let me start by actually zooming out here. All right, let's look at the macro lens. This is where rates have been historically, right? 17-18%, just crazy high. I'll say I don't think it's completely relevant simply because if we look at the past 10 years, those numbers have been very stabilized, okay? So if we're now looking at the past 10 years, you can see we've been hovering somewhere between 2.5% and 5%. I'm primarily right now just looking at this blue line. Let's talk about for that 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And with those 30s, it's even been 3.25 to 5, right? So a fairly narrow window. The reason there was kind of some shock in the market was having been so low and on the low in that spectrum, and then in a very short amount of time, just skyrocketing up, as you can see right here. If we then zoom into, let's just go into a 1-year view. Again, we were riding nice and low. We were around 3%, and then all of a sudden everything just spiked, and then all of a sudden went to 5.3% in the middle of May. So that was a huge shock to the market. We saw a ton of buyers that just put the brakes on very, very quickly because all of a sudden their payments for that $400,000 home, all of a sudden for the same payment, they were getting $350, right, or some hugely different number, but prices didn't come down, and they haven't come down. So we did peak about 5.3, and then now you can see here we're at 5.1. Now, if you caught me on the live stream, those are a great way to kind of get a mid-month check-in, so make sure and subscribe, and you can catch my next live stream. One of the things we had talked about, though, is this number right here, and you can see that 0.9% was the average points paid to get that rate. Now, with points, that's basically your lender kind of baking in an extra fee to keep those rates down, right? Sometimes, of course, buyers will just opt to pay those, and when rates are really high, if you've got the extra cash, that can be a great thing to choose to pay points, but it's also a way that the banks are kind of hiding in fees in order to keep those rates down so that they can keep you willing to purchase the home, but then all of a sudden you didn't realize they had baked in those fees, and that might be $5,000 or $10,000 to pay points to keep that rate down. So that's not really an ideal for most buyers. Some aren't even aware of it. So again, you can definitely feel free to shop different lenders, make sure you're getting a great rate, but make sure that you're comparing whether or not they have any points baked into those rates. Anyways, we're just a touch over 5% right now, and trending a little bit better. So, okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Now that we've gone through all of that, here's what you need to know with the real estate market right now in the Twin Cities. First, we're going to be looking at median sale price. So this one took a big jump this month from March to April. You can see obviously there we are now at 370,000. Oops. We're at 370,000 is our median sale price for the Twin Cities. That went up $16,000 just over from March to April. Now that's a big number, but you can see this is a rolling monthly number. So down here, of course, this would be during the winter months. This would be during the summer months. So we're expecting that number to go up. We aren't totally surprised. And then again, we should see this with our normal seasonality jump back down in the winter months. Okay. So not a huge surprise there. However, from this April to last April, that is a 10% increase. That's actually not a terribly high number, which I can't believe I'm saying, but I've seen that easily over 10% the majority of the hot months. So we're not surprised by that number, but it's still a pretty significant number that we would love to see calming down. Month supply of inventory. This again, the lower we are, the more of a seller's market is. The higher we are, the more of a balanced or eventually a buyer's market we are. I'm only pulling the past 5 years for you here, but you can see we did come up another 0.1 months, which is good. That's not a huge jump by any means, but I would say that's about as we would have expected. We had been at 0.9 as our lowest. We've come up to tenths, and we're now at 1.1 month supply of inventory. So this is the number that it's not very sexy or exciting, but this is kind of that leading indicator, one of them, that we would love to see this between about 4 and 6 months supply of inventory. You can see we're obviously at a quarter of that, and that's after having rates just spiked, a whole bunch of buyers pulled out of the market, right? That would have been this big crash or flood or pop or whatever you want to call it, that we would have almost expected that number to be higher if the real estate sky was going to fall, like a lot of the sensationalized news is trying to convince you it might. We didn't see that this month. We didn't see that at all. And so we do expect this number to keep going up. Again, with normal seasonality, you can see it's the lowest during the winter, and then it kind of balances out a little bit more during the summer months. We're seeing that happen, but we're just not seeing it very quickly or significantly. Okay, here's something new that I want to hit you with, and this is really, really important for you to understand regarding shifts in the market and partially why we're where we're at. What you're looking at right here is the number of new listings that are happening in our market. And this is a 10-year graph, but obviously you can see this is us still kind of rebounding from the boom and the bust of the last big recession. So let's just go back to kind of in here, okay? What I want you to notice, and this is going to be important when you see the next graph here. Let's talk number of new listings, okay? This is actually a fairly small gap here. So, if we're looking at this peak, maybe that's about 78,000 homes. And in this valley down here, maybe that's like 73, 74,000, okay? So call it 74 to 78,000. That's only about a 6,000 home gap as far as the number of new listings hitting the market. And what you can see is that through this time, it's relatively stable, right? It's obviously shifting between there, but we're not seeing a real massive change kind of once you average that out over the past several years. Now, here's what's going to be interesting. Let me clear this off for you. That many homes are going on the market. This many homes have closed during that same time frame. Okay, so all right, let's draw our little lines here and here. But obviously you can see this trend line is doing something more like this. Okay, so why are we in such a seller's market? It's that we've had basically the same number of sellers opting to put their home on the market, and we've seen more and more higher percentage of those selling. So when they say we have an inventory shortage, it's not that we have a shortage of homes getting put on the market. It's that relative to the number of buyers, we're just seeing those buyers scoop them up a whole lot faster. They're going off of the market. and so those new listings are selling. One interesting point that I wanted to just point out for you too here, I just had a great conversation with some folks, and they are thinking about selling. And they were interviewing me and 3 other agents, and they were saying, well, the home's just going to sell itself in 24 hours, so we're just going to go with the cheap guy, right? And I got no problem with that. Like, I want every client to feel free to do whatever they feel is best. But this is a really great way, let me put it back for you. This is a really great illustration. You can see, okay, so right now we're doing about 65,000 closed homes. Okay, let me clear this off again for you. And we're seeing about 75,000 homes getting put on the market. Okay, so let's just do some quick math here for you, right? Oops. That would mean about 14% of the homes that are put on the market aren't actually selling. And so, I mean, homes definitely sell quickly, and the market is very favorable for sellers. But it's still really important to hire a good agent. I know a bunch of you aren't even in my state. You can't hire me to sell your house, but it still matters. Marketing still matters, and so it's very disappointing when sellers are looking at who's the cheapest and not necessarily who's going to do the best for you. And obviously that list of sale price number Home Free was talking about, that's at 104%, right? Well, what if we could get that 1 or 2% higher for you? That's what you want. Anyways, okay, off my soapbox. Let's look at a couple final things here. This is, oops, let me switch for you. This is the number of showings happening per listing. Now again, I want you to look at this graph. The very bottom there is 4 showings per listing. The top is, say, 8.5. So we're not talking about like 5 showings to 50 showings, okay? We're averaging this out, of course. And, let's cut out from that same time frame. Okay, so you're somewhere in here to, this is basically when the pandemic happened, okay? From say 4.25 to the low to not quite 6 is a high, right? Not a huge shift. But then all of a sudden the pandemic happened, and everybody said, forget this, I want a different house. Just a ton of buyers pushed into the market. So then that's when we saw this huge explosion happen. Now, kudos to you that stuck around to almost the end of this part, because this is actually super important. This drop right here is pretty indicative of the market shifting. Now, even from there, that's like what, 3/8 of a drop. It's not a significant drop. However, when the market shifts, or I mean all these, when the bubble bursts or whatever. Okay, that's not going to happen. But let's say all of that does happen. I'm going to clear this off again for you. Okay, cool. Let's say this drops back down to here, right? And we get to this level. In reality, that's kind of normal to where we were pre-pandemic, okay? Just heard National Association of Realtors putting out stats that's like, oh, sales have fallen to pre-pandemic levels. Yeah, well, pre-pandemic is normal, right? That means we've normalized to some extent. So when you're hearing that, be like, yay, great, things aren't crazy like they had been. We're getting to being a little bit more of a balanced market. So if this whole number wants to drop, I'm totally cool with that, because I think we're going to still be getting to a much more normal position in the market, and that's good for everybody. Really, sellers will be able to sell more confidently, because then they can buy and they can actually get that offer accepted contingent on their sale, or they can have a fighting chance to make that switch, which is what a lot of people are wanting to do. This is obviously going to be fueled by those interest rates changing. As those spiked, all of a sudden, buyer showings dropped. Not surprising at all. That's also why on that showing time graph, let me circle back to here for you. That's why we see those numbers dipping. Besides just the normal dips happening, a lot of this is going to be fueled by the rates going down, okay? We were trending fairly similar, and as rates got higher, this gap started to spread there. And we started to see a little shift of what we had going on last year to where this actually is now. And I do believe that's going to keep pushing us down, that we'll trend more like this. But that's not, again, that's not a terribly bad thing. The biggest point is that sellers really need to have their expectations in line with, you cannot be super aggressive on listing your home for $425 when we think it's worth $400, right? If you're recommended a sale price, that's probably what you should put it at. Don't be over eager, and if we don't get it, then we're going to come down. you know, that's a terrible strategy when the market is shifting like we can see the data showing that it is. So that's what's going on right now in the Twin Cities. I hope that helped. I would love for you to subscribe, I'd love for you to hang out, and if there's anything I can do for you, I'll put my contact info up on the screen and down in the description, and so feel free to reach out. I love to answer your questions. Let me know questions in the comments below, and I'll see you next month.